Welcome, everyone. My name is Susan Patterson. I'm the host of this YouTube channel, Winning the Fight Against Human Trafficking and Child Exploitation. Today, I am pleased to be able to interview Corey Nichols, who works with Destiny Rescue, a nonprofit that both rescues and heals victims of third world sex trafficking. Corey will be sharing with us what sex trafficking looks like in countries like Thailand, how rescues are executed, and the types of programs that work to heal victims. For those of you who are not familiar with this channel, if you are someone who really wants to make a difference with the issue of human trafficking, you can go to our website, throughgodsgrace.com, and select the Educational Resource tab to see how our courses and the accompanying videos are laid out. Please do support our mission to mobilize the community to fight human trafficking by subscribing to this channel, and you can support the work of Destiny Rescue by sharing this video. Without further ado, let's meet Corey. Welcome, everyone. I am so excited to have Corey Nichols here today. Corey Nichols is an awesome man of God and Destiny Rescues USA Director of Strategic Partnerships and one of Destiny Rescue's key spokespersons. His passion for this issue of child sexual slavery stems from his own story of abuse he experienced as a minor. While working overseas in Thailand for Destiny Rescue, Corey saw horrific injustices done to children, which ultimately stirred his heart to return to the US to share these child survivor stories. Today, as a key communicator, Corey travels extensively throughout the United States and beyond to bring greater awareness to the pandemic of human trafficking and to inspire audience of all ages to play their part in defending children around the world. Corey will be sharing with us today about the situation in the third world with regard to child sex trafficking, how rescues happen, and what you can do to support organizations like Destiny Rescue. Corey, welcome.
Susan, it's an honor to be on this episode with you. It's always great to talk with you, someone who's equally as passionate about this issue. And so thank you for having me.
Well, thank you. So why don't we start by you? I had mentioned that you had shared with me that you had to overcome your own story of abuse, so your own experience, of abuse. And you really felt that that is one of the things that led you to this issue. Would you like to share with us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I felt like I was in a position. I was angry. I was frustrated, filled with fear. And I'll never forget, I was wrestling with God about, why'd you let this happen to me? And deep on the inside, I felt like God speak to me. It was more of like an impression in my heart, but he said, I was not the author of that. But if you'll trust me, Corey, one day I'll make great good out of that one day. And I chose to believe him by faith that he could take that ugly, broken mess that I went through and turn around and use it for great good. And one day I became a writer, and I don't have to get into the whole story of how that happened, but I came across this incredible organization called Destiny Rescue, and they literally would send undercover agents into some of the darkest places in the world to rescue kids out of the commercial sex industry, those kids that were being sexually abused and trafficked. And I was like, man, I want to use my influence to promote this organization. And I found out you could go visit their work in Thailand and Cambodia. They were much smaller back then. And I went to interview the founder, and halfway through the trip, he approached me and he said, our writer's leaving the organization. I hear that you're a writer. Would you consider coming on staff and writing for us? You'd have to move to Thailand. And in great faith, I said no. And I came back to the States, and I couldn't sleep for 2 weeks. God just kept ticking at my heart. I want you to be a voice for these kids. Corey, I've been working behind the scenes for a long time in your life, and I'm about to make good on that promise I made you over a decade earlier. And so I said yes, and I started working for Destiny Rescue overseas in Thailand. And as you read, I saw some horrific injustice done to kids, but to work for an organization today that's literally on the front lines to bring deliverance to kids and see that they live out their God-given destiny, there's nothing more rewarding.
Beautiful. I literally got chills when you said that God put on your heart that he was going to use this horrific thing that happened to you for his purposes, as part of, your mission. Not that he planned it or wanted that for you. That was awesome. And similar to you, after I read about child sex trafficking, I couldn't sleep. It was like God kept poking me and saying, do something, do something, do something, until I finally started taking action. So I'm sure God has called an army. I'm sure if we went out and talked to all these people, they would have a similar story, right?
They do. And it's amazing. I feel called to ignite a fire in God's people, that they will take their place in helping to defend kids. I look at it this way, Susan. God has rescued us
Yes.
to be rescuers of others. He's restored us to be restorers of others. And what not a better depiction of Christ and him bringing justice than to deliver kids out of sexual slavery through no fault of their own. They're being forced to do horrible things. And we have, as the body of Christ worldwide, have a mandate from God to stand up for those that can't stand up for themselves. And so I, just like you, that's why we connect so well, have a heart to awaken God's people to this issue and help them practically take steps to doing something to defend those that can't defend themselves.
Beautiful. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the work of Destiny Rescue?
I would love to. So Destiny Rescue was established in 2001. We're coming up on our 20th year, I think in end of October, November, 20 years. But we're an international Christian nonprofit organization that rescues children from sexual slavery or sexual exploitation and human trafficking. And we help kids stay free once we rescue them. We have a vision of playing a leading role in ending child sexual slavery worldwide. And so we literally have rescue agents that go undercover, finding kids that are trapped in the commercial sex industry or in sexually exploitive situations. And in some cases, human trafficking situations that gets beyond just sexual exploitation. And we rescue those kids and then we empower them to stay free. So since 2011, we've rescued over 7,000 individuals.
Wow.
Mostly children, ranging in age from 17 years old down to 18 months old. This year, well, let me go back. Since 2011, obviously, we've been around since 2001, but we were learning a lot as an organization. And from, I would say, 2006, when we had our first rescue, to 2011, we rescued maybe 50 to 100 children. We didn't even keep track back then, which is kind of crazy that we wouldn't track that information. But we said we want to start tracking our efforts and how we can improve in what we do. So since 2011, we've rescued over 7,000 individuals. We have had 284 successful raids and have had 359 traffickers, pimps arrested. Not all of them will face jail time, but our prayer is that we provide enough evidence that they get put away for a long, long, long time and off the streets from hurting and harming other children. This year, in 2021, we've rescued 1,171 individuals just this year alone. We've had 60 successful raids and 93 arrests so far. And we're just in August of this year. And so in the last several years, we have really grown. Our organization's growing into new countries. Currently, we're in 12 countries, mostly in the developing world. Then we're in the United States, Australia, and New Zealand, where we raise funds and awareness for our organization and raise up talent to help us in our efforts to defend kids.
Very good. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what happens during a rescue? You said something about undercover. So how does someone go undercover? How do the rescues happen? Because I'm sure these criminals don't want you rescuing these victims.
You're right. It's dangerous work, Many of our rescue agents have death threats. Our founder has death threats often.
Wow.
But what our organization does, we've really grown to develop amazing relationships in many of the countries we work in with top law enforcement agencies. We're not just a vigilante group. We actually have MOUs or agreements with many governments where we work right alongside their top law enforcement agencies. It'd be the equivalent to the US FBI or the CIA when working in these countries. So, for example, in 4 of the countries, we have these MOUs to do raid work. And so our agents will build a case. They go undercover, posing as customers, infiltrating chat rooms online. So it might be Telegram, it might be, there's all kinds of chat rooms, but we either become a fly on the wall or we join the group, posing as a customer, rooting out information where they're selling children to paying customers. And we will work to get the needed incriminating evidence ultimately to bring prosecution. And many of these countries that we work in, they're desperately wanting our help. We've gotten really good at what we're doing. So they say, please help us. They invite us into cases and we invite them into cases. Ultimately, we need law enforcement to do the arrest. Yes. So we will do joint raids right along with them once we've built a case and do what we call an entrapment. And so it will be a live in-person meetup and where a transaction's taken place. And once that transaction's taken place, we will rescue all traffic victims and we will have any of the perpetrators that were involved arrested. And then we even will research if there's a brothel involved, who owns that brothel? Is there anybody in a high level of influence in that country involved? And we begin to investigate that with these top law enforcement agencies to root out any trafficking rings of that nature. So that's one way that we work. We have 3 other types of rescue that we do. One is raid work. Another type is what we call covert rescues. It's relational rescues. You're building the trust. So we go undercover into brothels, karaoke bars, beer gardens, where these young kids, or they could be teenagers, like 14, 15, 16 years old. They're in working in these places, but they're pressured to sit with customers. The customers can touch them inappropriately and even pay to take them off site and have sex with them. We go undercover, build trust with them, ultimately to offer them rescue. That's called a covert rescue. We also, on the Nepali Indian border, it's an open border, we do border crossing stations. And we have 15 border crossing stations in Nepal on that border that are rescuing kids every single day that are being lured across that border into India and other places that will never see the light of day again. So those, and then we do what we call interventional rescues, which is like arranged marriages, child exploitation cases. It might not be a traditional human trafficking case, but it's you're intervening in that situation to offer that child rescue. So those are the ways those are different types of rescues. And that the reason I bring that up is because depending on the type of rescue you do and how you're working with that law enforcement and child protective services really determines a lot of where those kids go after you rescue them. It's not a one size fits all answer.
I understand.
And so when we rescue a child, we want to help alleviate her immediate need. So we will help provide transportation to a safe place temporarily until we can find out a longer term solution for her. We will provide a dignity pack for that child. So in that dignity pack, we provide a Bible, we provide a personal hygiene kit, a change of clothes, we'll maybe provide food. And then we begin to investigate what is the next best step for that child. So in some cases, it's reunification back with her family. And so our caseworkers and counselors will investigate how the child ended up in the sex industry to begin with. And we like to say every child's vulnerabilities are unique, and so is her path to freedom. We want to help kids stay free once we rescue them. And so we will investigate what is the best path forward for that child to be empowered to stay free long-term. So one of those situations, we investigate if it's a safe option to reunite the family and then provide a solution, keeping the family unit together. We call that community care. In some cases, it's a transitional home. So for example, on the Nepali Indian border, in a border crossing station, if we rescue a child that's being trafficked across that border, we have a transitional home there where we let the child stay for up to 7 days while we contact her parents and let them know what happened to their child. Wow. And in most cases, it's safe to reunite them back with that child. So that child will stay in our care until the family comes and gets her. We take them through an educational program on what are the dangers of human trafficking and how they can steer clear of these false promises of traffickers. And then we will help them to get back home. And if they need resources in their community, we will help connect them to the right resources. The beautiful thing about in Nepal, 91% of those we've rescued this year, which is 291 victims. Wow. 91% is getting to them before they're sexually abused. They are en route of being trafficked. Wow. Being trafficked, but we get to them because they're not getting to the brothel. So in 91% of those cases, we're rescuing them before they never see the light of day again and they're horrifically abused. And so we have a transitional home in many places where we can determine what that next step could look like for them. Or in some cases, their parents knowingly sold them, or it's unsafe to return to their community. So we have safe homes in many countries that we work in. In some instances, it's not a best case scenario that they come into our care, but we would refer them to another like-minded organization. Or in some cases, when doing raid work with police, they go through Child Protective Services. And in this case, in the Philippines, they have government-run safe home programs. And our caseworkers will follow up with them to see how they're doing. So it's never a one-size-fits-all answer. It's a very complicated issue. Any questions on raid work?
No, no, now I just want to know, and it's interesting what you said about law enforcement, because I would think that if just law enforcement was doing these rescues, what would happen to these girls? A lot of them would probably be taken back to their families or an orphanage or something, which is not going to heal them from this horrific trauma. I mean, it might, I shouldn't say, but I know you have a program where you've had tremendous success at healing these women from an unimaginable trauma. So why don't you tell us about your program after they come back to you?
When children come into our care, we provide counseling for them. They go through a program, a Christian-based program called Empower and Grow. It was developed by a psychologist that did incredible work on the front lines in Africa, dealing with genocide, child soldiers, war displacement, seeing horrific injustice, and it teaches them to forgive, the truths of the Bible and the best of science. It combines both of those, and we've seen incredible fruit from adopting this counseling program called Empower and Grow. They're two different things that we use in combination with each other. But this guy actually sits on our international board. So we provide counseling. We assess their family situation. And when a child comes into our care, we assess what we want to do is provide a stipend for that family, a financial stipend, so that alleviates the pressure from that child to feel like she has to be out looking for work to help her family survive. So that child comes into our care and we begin to identify what is her education level. Can we get her caught up with her education? Can we provide her a vocation to where what the dream in her heart what is in her heart. We will help her find a vocation that she would love to do that can increase her level of income. Then once they go through the program, which involves healing, maybe education, maybe vocational training, it's a 12-month long program. We will look at reintegrating them. And if it's safe to return them to their family, we do that. If they need, if they're like a really young child, let's say 6 years old, we might look at extended family or foster care. We might look at another organization that can deal with long-term children in some cases. So there's lots of different ways that we can help there, but we've empowered them to move forward successfully. We look at their family. So in community care, when it's a safe option to return to the family, we will reunite them with their family. We look even at the parents. Do they need job placement? We will help them get job placement. Do they need a microloan to jumpstart a business to increase their level of income? Because in most cases, not all, but in most cases, poverty, extreme poverty is one of the leading factors of why vulnerability exists in the developing world. They are starving, they're looking for help, and they become easy targets for traffickers to prey upon them.
Got it. Wow. That's amazing. I tell you, it gives me hope. We really see in everything you shared that God has called an army, that God has heard the cries of the victim. So much of what we see in the media is about despair. I mean, if that's all people read and they don't hear from people like you, it would be very easy to go into despair. Yeah.
I agree. I think that's true. Like sometimes, can I say this? We need to turn the news off and tune into a more positive channel.
Yes.
Because there's a lot of great good happening in the world. And news flash to everyone, listen, God wants to use you.
Yes.
Instead of feeling overwhelmed, you can play your part. Do a next step. Like, we're going to provide some clear, actionable things that you could do at the end of this. Do something. Do one small thing. And it's amazing. You can't change the world from everybody, but you can change the world for somebody. And I think it's amazing.
Yes, and that's why I call my channel Winning the Fight Against Human Trafficking and Child Exploitation. And I interview people like you to give people hope, you know, to come out of the despair. So can you share a story with us about one or two of the girls you've rescued and, you know, how they kind of came in and then where they're at now, so people have a sense of the transformation that can occur?
I would love to share one with you. The story of Nuon, it was a covert rescue. So one of our undercover agents, or there was multiple, and they never go into places alone by themselves. So I do want you to know that they go in teams of 2 or 3 usually. But they identified one girl, her name was Nuon, and she had been being exploited, and we rescued her, and she came to live in one of our safe homes. And we found out that she came from an impoverished family in Southeast Asia. They were so poor, the mother and the older son were helping the family survive, and she was being raised by her older brother and her mother. And they were so poor, she was always in and out of school, and she never learned to read and write. And so at 15 years old, her mother asked her to go out looking for work, and she was easily tricked and pressured, and she found herself trapped in the sex industry. That is where our rescue agent found her. She came into our care, and we found out she had a desire to learn the art of hairdressing. And so she was in our care for a month. It was hard work for her because she had never learned to read and write. And so she made a poor decision by calling up some of her friends and told her what she was up to, that she was learning how to do hairdressing. And they told her, you can't do that. You can't even read and write. How could you possibly become a hairdresser? You can't do that. Those lies sank deep into her heart, and she began to believe that. And she made the poor decision to run away from our safe home because she was so ashamed at what her friends had said, and she felt worthless because she couldn't read and write. This shame came upon her. So sadly, she ran back to the same place that was exploiting her. And our caseworkers, our rescue agents, our counselors, they tried reaching out to her and she just kept blowing them off, felt hopeless. And for 6 months, she lived in a nightmare. One of our rescue agents, the same rescue agent that had visited her in that same establishment, was back looking for more minors. And he recognized her and he said, you don't deserve to be here. There's hope for you. We know that we can help you live out the dream God put in your heart. And so with a seed of faith, she said yes to that offer, and we re-rescued her. And she came into our care and she began to flourish, and she began to believe the truth that she could do it. And with the love and nurturing of our caseworkers and our counselors and our staff that wrapped their arms around her, and our house parents in the safe home in which she now lived, she began to flourish. And she eventually graduated from the salon training program. And today she lives on her own and she works for a great salon in her community, and she helps support her family with her income. That miracle is possible from everyday, ordinary people just like you listening to this. It doesn't just happen. It happens because people like you choose to invest in something worth investing in. You could be the reason a miracle like Nuon's story could take place.
That's fabulous, which leads me to the next question, which is, how can someone make a difference in this fight, given everything you've shared?
Absolutely. Well, not everyone has the skill sets to go undercover and to do that dangerous work. We've been at it for 20 years, building the needed partnerships and relationships and the expertise that our caseworkers, our counselors, our rescue agents and staff have. But people can partner with us to make sure that that frontline work happens every single day. And that's by becoming a rescue partner. We're looking for an army of people that will link arms with us every single day, month in and month out. And when you become a rescue partner for any monthly amount, we say any monthly amount because everybody's yes is different. We didn't want it at a minimum amount of $35 a month because not everybody can do that. But we wanted to say, if you have a heart for this issue, we want you to be able to contribute at a capacity you can contribute at, and know that your dollars that you're giving are rescuing kids. So when you become a rescue partner for any monthly amount, for some of you, that could be $25 a month. For others, $35 or $50 or $100. We have people this wide range, but needless to say, you're partnering with us. You're helping kids be rescued like Nuon every day and be healed and restored and go on and live out their God-given destiny and purpose. One example, we just rescued several kids this year that they each gave their life to Christ, and 10 of those kids got baptized in the back of a pickup truck. We put plastic down in the back of a pickup truck, and they all said, I want to make a public profession of faith in Jesus Christ. I understand that Destiny Rescue and Jesus were the reason this happened for me, and I'm so grateful. 3 of those kids that gave their lives to Christ and got baptized were sisters, 8, 10, and 15.
Wow.
They were being sexually abused by their stepfather, and he was selling them to men in their community. We rescued them, and now they're safe living in one of our safe homes. And it's amazing. So you can be part of miracles like that.
Very good. Now, if someone wanted to be a rescue partner, they would just go to your website, right?
Yep. It's very easy when you first get there. Ways to get involved. You can just, or say give now, destinyrescue.org. It's very simple. You can sign up right there. And
fabulous.
Under ways to get involved, it says rescue partner.
Fabulous.
Super simple.
Good. Now, how could a church get involved? Is there anything else other than being a rescue partner that a church can do?
Absolutely. So I know there's church leaders, pastors. You're like, how can I engage my church in
Right.
this global pandemic. We know it's something that God cares about. He
Yes.
says, stand up for the weak and needy, ensure that they get justice. And so we want to help empower people with tools that you can help your congregation actually get involved in this fight. One of the key ways of doing that is you can host at your church a Rescue Sunday. We're asking you and inviting you to do that once every year. Bring attention to this great evil of child sexual slavery and empower your people to actively get involved. So when you host a Rescue Sunday, you're shedding light on the global issue of child sexual slavery and the issue of human trafficking. You're connecting people with God's heart for this injustice so that God's people can be justice. And we have been rescued to rescue others. We have been restored to restore others. So a Rescue Sunday is equipping your people to take action. And then you'll learn a little bit about the work of Destiny Rescue. And we want to invite people to become rescue partners with Destiny Rescue. So month in and month out, you're helping rescue kids literally on a daily basis and see them healed. So as a church body, as an entity, the church, you can become a rescue partner, and you can also invite your congregants, each member, as God's stirring their heart, to become a rescue partner. We've actually provided a whole toolkit for you on the website that you can download. So pastor, if you're a gifted communicator and you want to just take those resources and mold it into your own message and invite your church, we would love to empower you to do it. Or if you want to invite one of our representatives to come share on a Sunday, we would love to talk with you about that as well. So under ways to get involved again, there's Rescue Sunday, and you can fill out a contact form and we'll send you a lot of great information, and one of our representatives will get in touch with you. Also, this is something else that you can do as a church, but we have some incredible documentaries that have been put out on this issue of human trafficking. You can go undercover with our agents and see the work that they're doing. You can see agents rescuing kids on their border crossing stations. You can see what our aftercare looks like. There's a lot of great resources that you can show a movie screening with a core group from your church on how they can be stirred to do something. So I would say those things are some amazing ways that they can get involved. And of course, please be praying for our team. Never underestimate the power of prayer. Commit our frontline teams and our teams to prayer. We need prayer on how to find the kids, and in cooperation with law enforcement and government agencies. And you know, like I mentioned in Nuance Story, when you rescue a child, it's just the first battle for the war for them. There's all kinds of pressures trying to pull them back into darkness. And you as a prayer warrior can be praying that God would send his ministering angels and his Holy Spirit to be at work to guard their hearts and minds so that they can understand the incredible love he offers them in our care. So
I love that. So anything else you want to add before we complete today?
Yeah, I would just say, Susan, there might be people listening that says, there's no way I could do something. This issue is too big.
Yes.
Quit focusing on how big the problem is and focus it on one individual that you could help rescue, or you could help stay free by providing the critical resources to do. I'll never forget, I had a classmate of mine in high school. She began to follow my journey of me doing what I do with Destiny Rescue. And she saw that I moved back to the United States. And so she said, Corey, I want to have you come and share with some of our classmates at a dinner party I'm going to have. One person showed up, just one person.
No.
Tears were streaming down her face. Corey, I feel so devastated. But a fire was lit inside of her of the stories I began to share. And it compelled her to invite more classmates again. 27 people showed up to that event, and we raised several $1,000s on the night. Her and her husband and 2 other couples went on to start this tea party that grew to be over roughly 1,000 people every single month.
Wow.
It was hosted in a large venue in Fort Wayne, Indiana. And they've gone on to raise tens of thousands of dollars to help rescue unbelievable amount of kids, all because she had the courage to step out and do something.
Yes.
Your story might be different. You might be a garage sailor, and through your funds of garage selling, you could help rescue a child. The average cost it takes us to rescue a child is $1,500. You could help rescue a kid. Or maybe you're a dog breeder. We have a lady, she's a dog breeder, and she sells puppies from when they have her litter, and she's rescued, I can't even tell you how many kids she's rescued by just in the profits she makes from selling puppies. And so what is your yes? Eliminate the excuse. Eliminate the excuse and determine what you can do, and be amazed at what God can do with your little loaves of bread and fish, and multiply it to feed an unbelievable army of people.
That was so inspiring, Corey. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
That was fabulous. So listen, I want to thank you for being here today. As everyone can see, his passion speaks volumes. It's because he's seen the difference that God is making in the lives of these children. And I just want to say that there is hope if everyone steps in and does their part. And like you said, they just need to start. And in my experience, I just started with one little talk, kind of like what you described, that woman having the, inviting people. And then God kept opening doors and more doors and more doors and more doors. And now I'm a national leader. So I want to leave people with is you just need to trust God. If God has put something on your heart, step out and trust him, and he'll bring you the right people and the right, whatever you need, God will equip you. All you need to do is say yes.
That's so powerful, Susan. It is always an honor to be on a program with you, to share a stage with you. God is raising you up to be a voice for victims around the world, not only in the US, but I believe all over the world.
Yes.
And he's using your passion, your skill sets. And I consider it a great honor to be your friend and fellow freedom fighter. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Corey.